We are here today to show you how to install the most anticipated product we have ever had, the Revenant Pro amplifier. You guys have been asking for this for quite a while, and we can finally sort quite a few premium and Harman Kardon BMWs. In addition to that, we are also releasing this for the standard hi-fi models. You guys are going to get a boost in power there as well. And really, this is going to be one of our platforms moving forward that we're going to be putting into a variety of makes and models. We've done a few trick things on this. This is fully our own amplifier. We've recessed the plugs for additional fitment in tight locations, which came up during our testing. We've also done a Bavsound tune card, which we'll be touching on more later in the video. But what it means for you guys is for the amount of power that this amplifier is capable of putting out, you're getting it in a plug-and-play fashion never quite seen before in this space. So moving on, we're going to go ahead and get into the M3. I'm going to show you guys how to take apart the trunk. We're going to be doing it in what I would call a universal fashion. So obviously, if you have this exact vehicle, this is our 2016 individually ordered messing metallic M3. It will be exact to this, but it also is meant to be used as a reference guide for a variety of vehicles, as the install is pretty straightforward and largely similar across various cars. We did this with our previous non-Pro Revenant and had good feedback, so we're doing that again. So what we have here are all the components you'll be getting if you have a premium top hi-fi vehicle, if you have which is going to be like the Harman Kardon systems, a lot of the Logic 7, things like that. If you have a standard hi-fi vehicle or some select Harman Kardon vehicles like the 2 Series that don't require the most adapter, you will not be getting this piece. Everything else you will be getting. So we'll start with the Revenant Pro box, which is this awesome design box. We had this done by a local artist, Jetter. Turned out really cool. Excited for you guys to get this in hand and check it out. So in here, the only thing we have is the amplifier, as we're storing these in a modular fashion. So you'll have just that in the plastic wrap here. We can briefly cover, this is where your harness will plug in. This is where your tune card's gonna go. It's all labeled, it's all pretty obvious, power over here, all that fun stuff. A lot of these things you guys won't be using. So, moving on from that, we have the harness and hardware box. This is going to have the harness to plug into the vehicle. So this will go into your vehicle's factory amplifier plug, and then this side will come into our amp. If you have a standard hi-fi, you'll have a couple plugs. It's all very obvious. We also have our ASD bypass harness. This is your active sound design module. This is what BMW uses to pump those fake engine noises into your car. We find it's a cleaner signal when that's bypassed, so we've included that for you to do so. And then we also have our power harness with inline fuse block. The fuse will be the last thing we do on the installation. That's to prevent you from having power running through that side until you are absolutely ready to do so with everything plugged in. And we also have 2 more important little bits out of there. We have our little accessory packet with it for you standard hi-fi guys. And it's a little, of course, it's hiding from me. But we have some zip ties to help you route the wiring. We have your fuse to drop in. And in the case of the premium vehicles, which will be mounting this most adapter, we include this little bit of Velcro and an alcohol prep pad so you can stick that on. Perhaps most importantly out of all these boxes, we also have our easy and important manual, as you'll see it noted here. Takes a couple minutes to read through, has some great information on your amp, various things to do there, in particular setting these profile switches, which allows you to pick the correct tune for whether you have Bavsound speakers, stock speakers, etc., and gets you all up and running, also designed by that artist Jetter. We then have the tune module, which has our little tune chip, which will pop into that Bavsound tune card slot. We have our hardware box. Most vehicles will receive this. There are some vehicles that use funky setups or funky brackets from BMW, which will get our universal install kit, which is some really high quality 3M dual lock Velcro. I know one of the vehicles using that right now is the 2 Series. Everything else right now is gonna be using this bracket, which is also going to include 6 little screws, bolts right under the bottom of the amplifier, drops right in. And last, but certainly not least for you premium guys with the digital interface in your system, this is the Bavsound Revenant Most adapter. This is what lets us finally do audio in these premium and Harman Kardon vehicles that require a digital interface. You're gonna get this in the box. You're gonna get a few other items. One of them is gonna be a fiber optic cable. That will be important. And then the other most important thing is this little plastic adapter. This will allow you to take your factory fiber optic connection and plug it in here. There's also this little gray plug. This will pull straight out. You got to remove that before installation. But yeah, that's everything you have in your box. And with that said, we're gonna go dive into this vehicle and show you how to get this installed. The first panel we're gonna be removing is this rear trim panel going around the latch. And it is held in by 4 plastic, what we call little clips, pops, whatever your favorite word for them are. And there's 4 of them, and I'll pull it up and show you guys a bit closer, but there's gonna be this little slot on the side. You'll take our metal panel removal tool, slide down in. Once that lifts, the whole thing just pops out, and I'll show you what this looks like here. It's just got this little plunger that goes in to these teeth and pushes them out. All you have to do to release it is pull back on this with the metal panel removal tool, and it will slide right out. We're gonna go ahead and remove the other 3 of these, and I'll show you how to get this panel out. With those 4 plastic clips out, we can remove this carpet, and you can ignore that power and ground wiring. That's a little bit of movie magic in our development car. That will not be there in yours just yet. So with that out, it's time to take this out, and there's a couple locating tabs that kind of go downwards at a relatively steep angle. It's also held in by this rear gasket here. So what we're gonna do is you just lift straight up and out. This may fight you more than that. They actually typically do, and I'll show you these little tabs I'm talking about. Those locate down into the holes here. So with that removed, the next thing we're gonna go after is this carpeted panel, and we'll pause and regroup, and I'll show you how to get that out. So the next thing to get out is this left carpeted panel. There's a couple things. There's a little clip up here, which when we get all of the other plastic clips out, I'll come up and show you how to handle that, as it's a little tricky. But beyond that, we just have 1 and 2 plastic clips. I don't know if you can come up here and show them. Just up over there. There's those 2 to remove. We also have 1 all the way at the top here. So we're gonna go ahead and get all 3 of these removed, as well as, if we can come in on this down here. If you pop this little plastic cover off, you can just go from the front. It lifts right up. That will reveal a Torx T40 bolt. We'll go ahead and get that removed. So with the 3 clips and our Torx T40 bolt removed, we'll join you at the back to show you how to get this around the trunk hinge. So with our 3 clips out, and again, we have that back here. There's 1 up top here, sitting above this luggage hook, or I guess shirt hook, whatever you want to use that for. And then we've also removed the 1 up at the front, as well as the luggage hook with the Torx T40. So with all of those out, you can go ahead and remove this plastic panel. Just lift straight up and out, and we are ready to take the carpet piece out. Now we do have 1 connection to undo here from the cigarette lighter, so we're gonna go ahead and go slow once we start to release it, so we don't just pull that off. So the first thing we can do, you can see this carpeted panel here sits over this edge. You just wanna lift up and out on this so you can take it out of this gasket here. There's also a little plastic connection up here I'll show you more on in just a second that you'll have to unclip. And it can be a little bit tricky, but you just lift up and around that. Now we need to compress downwards and kind of pinch this around everything. So we'll come in here, and as you're moving out, you'll just go down and below the seat release. And I'm gonna pause here. You can also see this is separated, which is normal. And we'll actually come over, this is actually pretty well lit if you come in here. We have our cigarette lighter connection. This just pulls straight out and back. So no tab, no nothing to release. It just wiggle it off. It's just a couple little spade connectors. So we'll come back around now, and this is ready to release from the vehicle. It'll be just tucked into the seat a little bit up there, and you'll just slide it out. So before we take this fully out of the car, if you want to come up here, we can talk about this connection. Now, it's worth saying, you can definitely see ours has a little wear going on and stuff. This is a development vehicle for us. We've taken it apart probably 30 times at this point. You should not expect this kind of wear in just a single takeout, or even a couple. But we have this little plastic connection here. They just lock into each other. It goes around this hinge. It can be a little bit tricky to line up, but with a little bit of effort, it goes in no problem. So we're going to take this out of the car and we'll show you how to remove the amplifier from its bracket and wiring. So the first thing we need to do is remove the 10mm nut located towards the back of the bracket. Now this is the style in this car, and you'll see this in a lot of coupes and sedans. If you have a X5 or X3, in a lot of cases you actually won't need to do this, and you can just start paying attention when we get to the part of disconnecting the amplifier as well as taking the nut off the bracket. So we're going to get that out and slide the bracket forward, and I'll show you how to get these connections removed from the amplifier. So with that 10mm nut removed, the bracket's ready to slide forward and come out. And what I like to do, I just like to take a little microfiber towel, whatever your preference is, and lay it over the paint where we're going to set this down, just so it doesn't get any scratches. One other thing to talk about, so again, this is a development vehicle for us, so we're always in and out of this. You're going to have, at least in this vehicle and some others, there'll be a plastic support bracket going over the amplifier that's not present here. That will be removed and just set to the side. You can hold on to it if you're keeping the vehicle or discard it. We won't be using it any further. But if you get in here and there's like an extra plastic support, know that's what that is, and it won't be used. Just don't go ahead and stand on that plastic panel in the trunk anymore, and you'll be just fine. So now we can go ahead and slide the bracket forward. It just slides forward off its locating tabs and set it here where we can begin to take out these connections. So this fiber optic connection up top just has this little release tab here. You'll just push down, and that's actually released already. It slides forward and out. We also have this power plug here, which has a release tab on top, as you can feel. So you push that in and slide it out, leaving just the speaker connections here, which the way this works, there's this plastic surround on it, and you'll slide that outwards. So I'll show you one more time. I know the sliding's a little tough, so thanks for bearing with us. So you'll slide this outwards, which starts the process of it removing, and you'll continue to just slide it outwards and it will pop off. It's sort of an out motion on things. And with that, we're actually almost ready to remove the factory amp. It's held in by a single bolt at this point, which we've conveniently left finger tight. I believe this is an 8mm bolt. It might be a 7. I'll double check that for you guys in just a second here. So with that out, and you do want to hold on to that, this factory amp is ready to remove itself, and we can talk about putting the Bavsound amp in. So with that factory amp out of the bracket, we can go ahead and put the Revenant Amplifier on there. So we've already went ahead and installed our bracket here. Again, very straightforward. We are missing a bolt because this is a pre-production amp that we're filming with today. So you have to ignore that, but you have the 6 screws that will go in here. You'll get 6 with your package. That drops right on. In the case you have one of the vehicles that uses a universal install, we'll just have a couple strips of Velcro for you. You'll put here and here, stick it onto the bracket. It's not going anywhere. We've had it in a M2 competition. We've done some aggressive driving in for quite a while now without issue. So just on the bracket, same as the factory. We'll actually come under. You can kind of see, you gotta line the fins up here. That could be a little tricky. So you can see these, oh, I even missed one there. So with those all lined up, it will sit down onto the bracket. We'll take that 8mm we confirmed screw, which will go right in, and of course you want to snug that down with an 8mm driver. So what we'll do, we'll pause here and leave that sat up, and I'll show you what we're going to do with our connections over on this side. So with the 3 amplifier connections removed, this is our old power and ground cable, which we won't be reusing. And then we also have the fiber optic connector with some additional wiring, which again we won't be using. And then the large speaker connector, speaker wiring connector, which we will be reusing. Now what we need to do, you can see in this, we need to just remove the fiber optic from this, and you can just do it with a pick tool. If you've got fingernails, you can do that. Don't stab yourself. There's just this little release tab right here. Maybe it is easier with a fingernail. That you just push outwards on, and that will allow this to slide up and out, which we then need to take, and we have this little plastic piece that came with your Revenant Most adapter, and you'll go ahead and slide that in, which will allow this to plug into our Most interface. So we'll go ahead and pause here, and I'll show you how to do the power wiring. All right, so we're now gonna make our connections to the battery, which in this FEDM3 is right over here behind this panel. On some 2 series, it will be under the carpet in the center. You'll actually see that in quite a few cars. It's gonna vary a little bit. Just look around, they're almost always in the trunk area, and we included plenty of wiring length for you to get it where you need. So here, you just take this little guy and turn him to the left, and this panel will lift out, revealing our battery. And we're gonna get you some close-ups of this after, but we'll be attaching to the post on the positive terminal and the grounding post on the body of the car over here. So we'll come in and get you some close shots of that and show you exactly what we're working with. So you can see, and we've already attached it here, on the positive terminal they have this little accessory post, which I'll come in and show you guys right here. It's this little 10mm nut. You can just go ahead and slide our terminal over that post once you remove that 10mm nut and come back down. And you can see on positioning of the fuse holder, we don't have our fuse in yet, but it can just kind of sit in front of the battery tray here. Now on the negative terminal, you'll see there's this post as well. We unfortunately can't use that as BMW. They go through and essentially crush some of the threads on the end, so a bolt can't come on and off smoothly. So, and this will be a little tricky to show, but you can see there's this large grounding post over on the right here. That's what we go to, and that's where we grab our ground from. When you remove that, it's a 13mm nut, and you'll want to just keep, you can either tape it or just hold a finger. Sorry, it's hard to show you guys this, it's kind of tucked in. You can just hold a finger and make sure that it stays connected to the body. If it does lift up a little bit, you might get just some light arcing. That's okay and nothing to worry about. But so the next thing I want us to do before we go any further is put in our Bavsound tune module. So this stores all of the DSP settings on the amplifier, and there's a total of 4 tunes loaded onto this. So it comes in this nice little box, and I just want to show you guys here as we go over. You'll notice if we want to get in tight on that, these upwards arrows. This is very important as that indicates the orientation that we have to put this into the amplifier in. If you try to do it in this orientation, it won't work, and it can seem like it went in, but you'll miss the connection. So again, look at these up arrows, text is upwards as well, and we're going to come over to the amp and find our Bavsound tune card slot, and this guy will just slide right on in. So with that in place, the next thing we need to worry about is the profile switches here. And this is going to vary a little vehicle to vehicle, so I'm not going to tell you exactly what to do in this, but reference that quick start guide that came with your car. There will be, or it came in the harness and hardware box. If you look through that, there will be a little guide telling you exactly how to set this depending on whether you have the Bavsound setup, your stock setup, and whether you want a driver focused time delay or a more vehicle focused, meaning the passengers get a more similar experience as well. And again, all you have to do, just move these little switches up or down. You can do this blind, obviously with it already installed, but it's easiest to set it while it's still outside the car. So with that said, I'm going to show you how to run the power wires next, and then we'll get this amp dropped in. So the first thing we can do, as it's easier when the bracket is out of the car, or out of its place in the car, I should say, is put in, this is our ASD bypass harness. This bypasses the active sound design module. If it's present in your vehicle, that's what pumps the fake engine noise through the car, and it can just be a little off-putting with the amplifier, so we recommend bypassing it. You don't have to run this if you don't want to, and your vehicle may not be ASD equipped depending on the spec of the car, but we include it in case it is. So we'll just come down here, and again, I'll show you, there's this little latching lever, so this is how you'll insert it away from the tab. When you get it started, you'll push this lever up and lock it into place, and you'll feel that pull it down into the plug. I know this is probably a little dark, but it will be very obvious when you're in here. So we'll go ahead and remove the connection out of the ASD here. So you push in on this little tab there, and then rotate that down. This comes out. We'll take this again away from that tab, push it in. This locks into place, and then we'll do the same into this plug here. Easy as can be, and you'll just be able to tuck that away. You can keep it off to the side to get that bolt back in. So next we have here, this is what we'll call the speaker wire harness, and you'll see it's got two leads coming off of it. One longer one, which is going to be the turn on signal for the amp, which is going to come out of our most adapter. And then this one is if you're going to add a second amplifier for a subwoofer in the trunk. This is not something that we're offering at this time, but we wanted you to have the ability to easily do that if you want to add a powered sub in the trunk. So this would be the output signal for that, this shorter lead. And then we will use the RCA out on the amp. We'll have a little supplemental guide on the side for those of you wanting to do that. Just wanted to touch on that briefly here. So with the plug, and we'll have this little tab up, you'll come in here. I'll try to do this where you can see. And you'll see it's recessed. This is for clearance purposes. You just come on in, and that will lock into place. Just make sure it's nice and firm in there. You don't want to pull too hard on the wires, but you can just make sure it's snug, which that is. So this is all ready to drop down into here at this point, and we'll do the rest of these connections once it's in place. But I wanted to take a little bit of time now to talk about the power wire routing. Now this is going to be a little bit different in every vehicle. So you can see we're coming off the battery here. I'll show it again. And this is the premium car, so it's got this extra little harness off it. But if you want to just get in, it will be a little dark, but maybe we can show them. Here, I'll move this light here. If we show where the wires are coming out, it's just kind of snaked over, and then you can see where it exits the carpet there. So what we're going to do, we're going to run it below that little plastic panel the whole way across, like so, and then we'll end up, it will come in here, it will go under that carpeted panel again, and we'll end up wrapping the wires once or twice with it over here to take out the slack. So the way I recommend doing that, you can just kind of eyeball the clearance. It's okay if there's a little slack in here. We'll go ahead and get this all wrapped up. I'm sure this looks messy right now, but we'll get these inserted into the amplifier. Again, very important. Red will go into the red side of the plug. And I apologize, this looks like a mess. I'll show you what it looks like cleaned up in just a second here. So red will go into the red side of the plug, marked power. Ground, the black wire will go into the ground over here. And again, we still have our fuse out. We're not putting the fuse in until the very last step. So we'll pause here. I'll get the wiring inserted. These are super easy. They just slide in. These Phillips screws tighten down on it. And I'll show you what it looks like before we slide this into place. So we just wanted to briefly show you, should be pretty intuitive, but you know, we know some of you guys are a little newer to this. Just make sure that screw's loosened so there's some room for this to slide in. And then you'll just insert the lead like so. It'll go on in, you can keep some pressure on it, and just go ahead, snug that down. Same thing on the power side. You can see that's nice and inserted well, and we'll actually reseat that one. It's got that little bit of a gap I just saw, but pretty straightforward. So we've now got both the power and ground cable firmly seated. You can see those are all the way in. We've snugged that down. Those are in there tight. You don't have to go crazy tight on those screws. And we've got this little additional
harness with lead here that's going to go into the most adapter. Again, if you have a standard hi-fi car, this won't be present. All you'll have in your installation, you'll actually have a second plug that will plug into the amp right here, but you won't have any of the additional power leads or a most adapter to install. Still very straightforward and easy, actually just a touch simpler than this. But with this here, we'll take this blue lead and off of our this is what we're calling the speaker wire harness. We'll take the blue wire off of that, and nice and color coded for you, and you'll just have to plug these in together. This will give the turn on signal to the amplifier from that most adapter. And again, we'll zip tie all this. I'll show you how we have it looked when it's finished, once it's in, but the slack is nice right now. And we'll just set that up here. And the one other thing we want to do before we put the amplifier in place, again, we have the bolt in, it's snug down at its bracket, is actually take our fiber optic wire and plug it into the amp, because that can be a little snug. So these are keyed, so there's only one way it can go in, and like a USB, I'll guess wrong the first time. And then that drops right in there. And we'll just, again, keep some slack in this. We'll tidy this all up later. This is a pre-production one, so the one you receive may look a little different than this, but same exact concept. So we're gonna, all right, so before we set this down in here, because it's gonna be really difficult to show as I do it, I wanted to point out a few things we're looking for. Perhaps the most important one is this little stud back here. This is where we remove that 10mm nut from, and you'll have to locate it on the bracket. At the rear, there's this little post there. There's one up here, and a third right up there as well. I'll just zoom out, trying to keep it all aligned for you guys. That will also line up in the bracket. Once you get the rear post through the bracket hole, which is gonna be, see if I can film this one right here, you'll just line it up with these front tabs, there, and there, and slide it backwards onto it. So we're gonna try to film that. I'm not sure how it will turn out, but either way, you know what to do, and we'll show you what it looks like once it's back in the car. So I just wanted to show you these little tabs, and remember there's 3 on the bracket in total. You can see they're fully inserted and locked into place, as well as, and it's gonna be tough to see past all the wiring, and we'll do our best here. Get this out of the way as well. You can see our stud is in that hole. So with all the wire connections that we've done so far still in place, and you want to make sure none of those got bumped out as you're putting the bracket in, we'll go ahead and put the 10mm nut back onto that post and secure the amplifier in the car. It'd be easy to forget to do this. It's in there pretty tight even without it, but you definitely want this for security's sake.
The next thing we're going to install is the Revenant Most adapter. We've got some thicker Velcro on this. You're going to get this nice little Velcro square that goes on the bottom. In this car, we're likely going to do the mounting on top of the amplifier itself, but you can go to any metal surface or otherwise surface in your vehicle that's appropriate. I know when we were doing the X5s, there was this nice little open space on the bracket we went right to. I did just want to talk about, so these are the 3 connections we're going to be using. The Toslink, which is that black fiber optic cable coming off of our amplifier. This is going to take the 2 green fiber optic connections into the black plug coming from the vehicle side, and this will be the power harness coming off of our power harness. Now you're going to see this gray thing in here. This is important. We really want to point this part out. Maybe we even have a little graphic. This has to come out. This is to protect the fiber optic, and it just slides straight out. I just had to use my thumbnail there. That is to protect the fiber optic connections during shipping and just make sure no dust or otherwise gets in there. So we'll transition over here, and I'll show you how to start hooking this up. So the first thing we can do here is grab this. Again, as we showed earlier in the video, this has been moved into the little black plastic piece that came with the Most adapter, and that will just plug into this. I think it's the other orientation. That clips in. We'll take the Toslink cable. Again, the cable we include may end up looking a little different than this. I'm sorry, my hand is, I'm sure, blocking your view. And then we will grab the power cable, which, where is that terminating right now?
So over here, again, we've made sure to plug it into the blue wire coming off of the speaker harness. And that will just come in. I'll try to show you guys. We'll just snap into place there. There's a little tab on the top. So with all of those connections made, we'll actually peel off this Velcro. Again, your Velcro will be a little less thick, a little bit better of a piece for it. And in this case, I like this just down on the amp like so. And again, I'll show you it all in the end. We're gonna go ahead, we'll get all this cable tied together and out of the way, nice and clean. But the last connection we need to make is going to be the speaker wire plug here. So we'll take that and you'll come up here. And again, just like before, we actually, watch out for the little plug off the Toslink cable if ours includes one. You'll put that in and then this will slide to the side while you're keeping pressure on it and just lock into place. So with all of that done, now would be the time to go and test everything in the front of the vehicle after we've put our fuse in, which we're gonna cover now. Again, that just goes, so I just wanted to show you the amount of force this takes because it can be a little bit. So with the fuse here, and it will do a little spark when you put it in, that's normal and okay. And then you'll just go ahead, and it is tight, that's so it doesn't come loose. You'll wanna make sure it's firmly seated in there. You'll kind of feel it locked down. Again, this can be really tricky. It can take a decent bit of force. Just make sure you're going straight down, nothing's bending, and those tabs are aligned. And with that fully seated, you can just pop this little cover on here, and we just tuck that down next to the battery out of the way. And with all that done, we'll go to the front, we'll test everything out, make sure it's working, and if so, we'll proceed with the wire management on the amplifier side. Yeah, and so you can see here we've done a decent job of it. You can just wrap up the extra power wire. You'll have to do an extra little bigger loop on the black. On this car, it's a little tricky with the space to get it super clean. But this will sit here. It will never interfere with anything. Nothing's gonna rub, and we are all good to go. So with that done, we can start reassembling the car. And just to remind you guys, we have one up front, made sure we have volume, made sure everything's sounding good before we start reassembly. So the first panel to go back in will be this side carpeted panel here. You can separate this guy. Just pulls apart, or typically does. Of course, now you guys are watching, it's a little tight. Again, ours from being in and out of the vehicle so many times has separated. Yours will likely not be. We will want to reach back here. I don't know if Justin's gonna be able to show you again. It's so, you can kind of see. And yeah, we got that additional light. You'll just go ahead and slide the connection for that back on. So then we'll make our way inwards with this. We'll have to run up to the front and tuck it around. This will go around here. It will kind of slot in. It will be a little bit tight around your rear trunk release. And before we go too much further back here, we'll hop up. I'll have him come get an angle. I'll show you how we tuck that front back into the... So you'll see this leading edge here just has to tuck into the seat, and you'll just maneuver it all forward. Come in, this will all sit a little more flush once the back is good. And just as a reminder, there's one more plastic clip to go up here. So we'll jump back to the rear of the car again and show you how to finalize it. So the couple things we'll have to do here, we can reach under, you'll want to lift this carpeted panel up again, drop it back down over this. Again, you can see we have our wiring if you want to come in on that. There's just this little groove down here. It will sit behind the plastic and it runs behind the carpet here as well. And then you'll just go ahead and start tucking this into the seal. I like to just palm that, run it around, and everything locks back into place. This guy can be a little tricky. You'll just kind of have to get in here with your fingers, maneuver that up. This is probably not showing on camera at all, but as we showed you earlier in the clip, you'll just have to play with this until you get those to snap back into place. And then we'll go through. There's gonna be, as a reminder, in addition to the one at the front we just showed you, there'll be another plastic clip that goes in here, one back over here, and then we've got our luggage hook to put back in up front. So we'll go ahead and do that now and join you guys back and talk about the next couple steps. So we've got this back in place. We've got the three, so there's one there, one up here,
one at the front plastic clips, as well as the luggage hook in place. And we've also got this all aligned over here. Again, a little hard to show on camera. Hopefully that shows for you guys. The other side is identical too, so you can use that for reference if you need to. So now it's time to put this panel back in, this plastic panel here. Again, we'll be using these locating tabs and tucking it back in under this trunk seal. And then just putting this panel in, the first thing we want to do is lift up this carpet here and get that beneath it. And then you'll come back and you'll feel those tabs align. Now, when we're doing this, you want to make sure that wiring is still all nice and tucked in below this. There's a nice little channel there, so you got plenty of room. And then we'll come to the gasket here. Now, the easiest method I've found for aligning that is you just kind of run your hands across it like this, and we'll come over and grab that lip. Like so. So with that done, we're gonna have to put the 4 plastic panel clips back in, and I'll show you one of them here. So you just take it, make sure the plunger is slightly out, and you come over here, you'll feel it align into the hole, push it down, and that's all there is to it. We'll do this 1, 2, 3, we've got 4 there, and then there's 1 more to go in the carpet over here. And then we're gonna drop this panel back in and that panel, show you guys what it looks like completed, and go to the front. So we've got our carpet back in, and the last panel to go in is this battery cover. And there's these couple hooks on the bottom, or I guess 1 hook and 1 alignment thing that you'll have to get into place. This can come a little bit close to the fuse block, so there's plenty of room for it. Just make sure that's tucked down in. If you feel resistance, you can of course move that. As you can see, there's none here. So with this in this position, you'll lock it up. And that is back. Our whole trunk is put back to factory, and we are ready to go to the front of the car to talk about some tuning settings. All right, so now that we've got the amp in the car, you've already tested function, we can talk a little bit about the tone and radio settings that we need to do. So you'll go over, and it's gonna be a little different in every car, but you'll be able to get to this menu called tone somewhere in the multimedia or other settings. So once you're in here, you can see we have our treble and bass flat. That is what we want to keep as a whole. You can go up or down a little bit, you know, we'd say 2 to 3 notches depending on your preference. And just as a reminder, if you want more treble or more bass, more isn't always the way to go. Like let's say you wanted it to be a little bit more bass heavy than how we have it tuned, although we do have quite a bit on hand. But if you did want that, you don't want to just go up that much on bass and leave treble alone. You'd go up, you know, a couple notches on bass, maybe down 1 or 2 on treble. So as far as that goes, we're all good there. The balance will work with this due to the way we have to adapt into the car. With these premium cars, the fader will not work. If you have a hi-fi car, it will, or like a Harman Kardon 2 series, not a huge deal. We have that dialed in our tune. Your full band equalizer will work as well. So you can play with this. Again, just a couple notches here and there. And remember, you can go up and down. Logic 7 Surround, again, isn't gonna function with this, as that's a feature of the old amplifier. We have a system similar to that built in. That will be what's called the full car tune rather than the driver focused tune. You can play with those and listen. I think you'll be really happy with one of those depending on your preference. I prefer the driver-centric time alignment, really gives you the best seat in the house and truly creates an amazing soundstage. So with all that said, all that you have to do now is enjoy your new amp and completely transform sound system in your BMW.